website called allthingsecc.com. And we're using that website's Facebook page to do this live broadcast. With me today are Dick Murgon, public safety consultant, and Willis Carter, Natchitoches, executive director of the communications district. What we're going to do today, see, I got it right, Willis. I want you to know that.
You did a good job on that pronunciation. I'm proud of you.
Anyway, we're here. Willis has recently, and extended over quite a period of time, been in charge of and organized and did the whole thing to build a new communication center. And so we're going to talk to him about things like when it started, how did it come about, why did it take so long, roadblocks, those types of things. So Willis, if you just give us a little rundown about how you got involved in it.
Thank you, Brent. My involvement started actually when I came to Natchitoches in 2010 as the 911 director for the parish. And the commission, one of the goals that they had was that they wanted a collated comm center. They had sheriff's dispatchers in the sheriff's department and police dispatchers and call takers in the police department. And their thought was that they wanted to co-locate those two. Now, this is on the heels of a public safety consolidation / co-location project study that was done for the district back in 2009, I think, 2008, 2009. So anyway, when I came here, that was part of what they wanted to do. They wanted to co-locate the two dispatch centers to make coordination a little bit easier and improve services somewhat. And that's how I got involved in it. The problem was there was a little, well, the district had a few funds, but we had nowhere close to the amount of funds that we needed to do the project. And we're fortunate here in Louisiana, and other states may have similar programs, I'm not sure, but here we have a program that's called Capital Outlay. It's a budgeted item in the state budget that allows the state to participate in non-governmental projects. And we are a government agency, so to speak. However, they also will do projects for non-governmental agents, just projects that involve brick and mortar typically, and serve the public. We applied for that assistance through the state. The state pays actually 75% of the project if you're lucky enough to get the funding. We had a very aggressive and very sensitive legislative group that helped us push this request through the process, and it's a long process. It took us about 5 years actually to go through the process and actually get the funding. But that's how we got the funding.
And so, but how much did it cost, Willis?
The entire project ended up being about $3.2 million.
And how many square feet and how many positions did that buy you?
The entire facility is 8,500 square feet. The portion of the building that houses the dispatch area is equipped with 8 positions. We currently have 6 dedicated, 3 to the police department, 3 to the sheriff's department, and I have 2 additional positions, which we hope to open up at some point as called 911 call taking positions. Also, with a responsibility for fire dispatching for the city and the parish, as well as EMS.
And as I recall, how you qualified for that funding was the other part of that space is a dedicated EOC for the parish.
Right. We have an EOC in the administrative side of the building. We have an EOC or a training room that we dedicated as the EOC, and we pretty much turned that over to our Homeland Security director, our assistant director. The sheriff is actually the director. He has an assistant director who actually manages the operations. But we have turned that basically over to them. They have their equipment in there, and they have already activated the EOC in a training mode and just to test it out, and it worked well. It's a little small, and we'll talk about the size of the facility if you'd like, but it's not as large as it could be, but it worked well. It served the purpose.
And the parish is serving a population of how many?
We have about 38, about 40,000 residents probably in the parish. Land mass is a pretty good size. We're about 65 miles long, north and south, and about 33 miles wide, east and west. So it's a large land mass, but not that many citizens.
So what was your biggest headache to trying to put this thing together?
Well, once we kind of breached the funding issue, that was the biggest headache. I had no idea how we were going to do it at first, but once we were able to move forward with that, the next is we did it in a way that I think is a little bit backwards. We backed into it as far as we had X number of dollars that we could spend. We had matching funds that we had to commit to the state, and it was we had to commit right at $1 million matching funds to the state, even to get the project approved and get it rolling. So that was basically all the money we had. The district had maybe $250,000 in addition to that, but we didn't want to drain our reserves completely down. So we were faced with an issue. We had a tight budget. We absolutely could not go over budget. We knew that from the very beginning. And when we started working with our architect, and that is one of the things I would say that when you decide you want to do a comm center, the most important aspect of that is selecting the right architect. We were fortunate. Our architect actually was familiar with the government. He's active in government here in Natchitoches Parish. He's the president of the Parish Planning Commission, so he was pretty adept to the governmental needs, and he had done a communications center for the sheriff's department a few years back. Not one quite to this degree, but he had done a communications center, so he had some knowledge of communications and the dispatch and call taking processes. So that was one thing that I didn't have to do. I didn't have to interview a bunch of architects and try to hire the most qualified. We went with him, and he started helping us get an initial design drawn out. I will say something about architects. Architects, and he may disagree with me, and all architects may disagree with me, but architects are primarily concerned with aesthetics, how the building looks from the, I'd say not a primary concern maybe, but they have a real concern with how their building's going to look when it's finished, as well as function. I'm not trying to say they're not sensitive to function, but they're also sensitive to aesthetics, probably more so than I was during the project. Architects have the knowledge and the skills necessary to guide you through a project like this. You just have to learn to work together. You have to learn to accept each other's ideas, and you got to give and take. And I think we did a pretty good job doing that. We fought like dogs and cats some days, and then other days we were on the same page. But bottom line is, I think overall it worked out well. The problem.
Willis, did you involve some of the future occupants in the design, or ask their opinion, or
Oh yeah,
look to other sources on what they had done?
absolutely. We appointed a building committee actually, which was composed of some of the commissioners, board commissioners, and then we also involved the representatives from each of the agencies. So they were involved from the very beginning in the project. There were several iterations to the plans because we drew the initial plans, and then it was about probably 4 years before we actually started the project. Building. So the plan gets old after a year. You have to pull it off the shelf and update it. All your costs are typically outdated over that time period. And over that time period, you realize things that you might want to change back and forth. So the plans migrated a little during that period, but yeah, each agency was invited to participate, and they participated to the degree they wanted to.
And did that include telecommunicators, the ones that were actually going to sit in there? Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. we included the telecommunications group or communications division for both police and fire. Police and sheriff, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so let's focus on the telecommunicators for a moment, since this is all things ECC. So, what features, did got added into this design that, if you had to say you're most proud of that service them, what would it be? Console design, sleeping space, I mean, whatever.
Well, I think the two most important things for our center is our dispatch call taker dispatch area control room, as I refer to it. That is a FEMA safe room. It is built to FEMA safe room standards. So first and foremost, we wanted to ensure their safety. And then secondly, we certainly wanted to ensure their comfort to the best degree that we could. So our consoles that were chosen, we chose Russ Bassett consoles. And those consoles are very nice. Not that there are other nice consoles out there, but we're pleased with ours. But that was one of the focuses: seating, lighting, HVAC, heating and cooling, and their ability to control all those environmental issues was important to us.
How about, do you have a sleeping area, a workout area? I know I've been through there. It's a really nice kitchen. I know you did a great job on the kitchen space.
We have a kitchen, a break area that's shared by all the agencies. We do not have sleeping areas in the building. That's something now that, especially since we're in this COVID situation that we're in now, that's in hindsight something I would probably like to have. As far as the kitchen's concerned, I would have liked to have a commercial kitchen, which is not commercial, but it's equipped. It's well equipped, dishwashers, range, and so forth. It's a well-equipped break area, and each has a dedicated refrigerator. So we try to make sure that part of the comfort is there for them as well.
Okay, so you brought up an interesting point there. You can't have a conversation these days without mentioning COVID.
Yeah.
What's the relationship, from your point of view, between having that sleeping space and COVID? Is it about keeping people over, keeping people isolated? So explain because people are going to be sitting there wondering, going, hey, what's that justification, and how do I articulate that to management?
Well, from my perspective, Dick, it's an issue of having the ability to house your people if you need to. If you have excessive sickness as a result of COVID. Now, we've been very fortunate. We locked the facility down very early in the pandemic. We implemented a number of things. We don't let anyone in the building unless there's absolutely a necessity. We require temperature scans when you come in the building. And just this week, we are requiring masks for any service people that come in the building and don't have masks. The option to use a mask in the facility is available, certainly if they want to. We don't use masks extensively, but everyone, knock on wood, we have had no sickness whatsoever since we started the process. And I think it's attributed to the fact that we locked the building down. We have been very diligent in not letting people come and go as they please in the building. And I think that's an important thing. We have part of our responsibility as a communications district. We also do addressing for the parish, and we have even locked that part down. My address coordinator has set up a outside area on the front of the building where address applicants can come by appointment only and fill out applications outside the building, pass them to her, and then she processes the application. We don't have any flow of citizens coming in or out of the building. And I think that's important. I think that's one of the reasons we've had no sickness. And I think it's so, as far as the sleeping area that I mentioned, I think that is more of a precaution in the event we did have a major sickness hit us, because we don't have we don't have any extra dispatchers actually. And frankly, we couldn't afford to have a big sick out.
Wow.
Did that answer the question?
Yep. Brent, you look like
so along those same lines, Willis, and and now knowing COVID's a part of our life and probably for the future, what would you advise people who are building a new comm center? Would you advise such things as a special area where they can wash and clean up before and after, provide, oh, we lost Willis. Hopefully he'll join again.
Yeah, we'll give him a minute to come back in. But that was kind of an interesting point that he makes, that, you know, with COVID, being able to isolate people and bring them in, you know, and let them stay there if need be, if it got really bad. I don't think anybody can do that.
No, and there's centers across the country that do have those kind of rooms, and it'd be interesting to see if they are, you know, using them for the same purpose that Willis indicates.
It says.
There you go.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We got us back.
Nope, it happens. That's the thing about being live. Things happen.
So, Willis, my question wasn't, you know, advising people in the future. Obviously, a room for that purpose in case pandemics reoccur. This one continues if they're building a building, but also stations for. I hate to use the word decon, as a fireman and a cop, we're all aware of that, but a place where they can feel comfortable, you know, washing their hands over an extended period of time, more room, you know, maybe to store cleaning products, those types of things. Is that something that I think would have to come about because of this, or should be considered, is a better word to put?
Absolutely, Brent. All those things, very important. And there would be a consideration of ours if we did this again. We did set up a station for our temperature. We do temperature checks. We did set a station up for that, but it's at the employee. We've limited entrance to the facility to the employee entrance and that's where the temperature station is. Yeah, in planning for a comm center, if I had to do it over again, that would certainly be in the plans, and it would include hand washing station, and the bunk space would be there. I don't think I would want a dedicated bunk room, so to speak, but I would want an area large enough to be able to have sleeping areas, segregated sleeping areas as much as possible segregated, so that in the event we did have a shortage of personnel, we could hold people over and have a comfortable place to be.
So what's your makeup of male-female ratio? Is it pretty even, or?
Female outnumbers the males in both of the dispatch centers. Now, I don't have anything to do with the actual dispatch centers. I don't have any dispatch employees, but females dominate both of those.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if you have separate, you know, space for sleeping, do you put 4 beds in each, or do you try and do, let's say, 5 because it's more a woman-dominated field and 3 for men? Or that's kind of why I was wondering.
Yeah, I don't honestly. I hadn't given that much thought to it. You know, in the fire service, we were faced with that issue early on, and we didn't, or I don't really. A lot of the new fire stations are being designed for women's sleeping areas and men's, but we didn't. While I was in the service, we didn't have any segregation from that respect. The most we had was signs on the bathroom door, occupied and you know, busy.
Yeah, because older fire stations and buildings just have the ability.
It's certainly something to consider nowadays, though.
Yeah.
Well, I think this has enlightened us a lot on all the things that are out there now. You know, you mentioned you have a temperature station, but you could build in, I guess, technically thermal imaging as your people come in. You wouldn't even have to, you know, actually do it manually. So there's just a lot of things I think that going forward should be considered, and hopefully, you know, will be. Willis, we've used up more time than I told you we would. So if, you know, is there anything else you'd like to add before we close this out?
No, we could talk another hour or so probably and wouldn't cover everything.
Probably.
I would encourage anyone that's contemplating building a comm center, get you a good architect, get as much money as you can, and by all means, build your facility larger than you think you will ever need it. because I promise you, it's never big enough. And that's one of the big challenges we have right now. Our center, we have very little to no storage space. We've filled it up already. And we knew we were going to be short on space, but we didn't have a choice. We had X number of dollars. Couldn't spend any more money. So we built the biggest facility we could afford to build. And I don't regret that, but it would have been so much better had we been able to build. We could have probably doubled the size of this building and still be in real good shape now and in good shape 4 or 5 years from now. As it is, we're suffering right now from growth pains. We don't have any space, and we're having to look at possibly adding some more. I've got some preliminary ideas on another 2,500 square feet already, and we've only been in the building about a year and a half. So,
wow, I think one of Einstein's theories in physics is that no empty space shall go unfilled.
no, you're right, and it doesn't.
Well, and I think it's typical in government work. You know, they give you a budget and you do the best you can. And unfortunately, it's not like that private sector where, you know, they can just build it huge and not have to worry about being accountable for those funds or that, you know, back to the citizens, because it's truly their money. And we're all kind of stuck with those budget issues. Here's what you get, do what you can. So
Well,
been there, done that.
That's been the story all along.
Yeah.
I would say,
Dick,
though,
anything further? Dick, you got anything further?
I'm good. Thanks for taking the time, Willis.
Yeah, really appreciate it, Willis. All right. We'll say goodbye. Thanks.
okay, thank y'all.